I was a beautiful girl. My parents always told me so. And I myself was happy with my reflection in the mirror. A slim figure, beautiful legs, big goals, all this led me to look for a rich, older man. I began seriously looking for a job. I wanted to earn a decent income, to travel the world, to see the sights of distant countries, the fabulous beauty of warm countries. But these dreams seemed absurd. Crisis after crisis hit the country, and professionals with experience, unlike me, were fighting for jobs. After running around to job interviews, sending tons of resumes and not getting any response, I reached complete despair and was ready to work for pennies. Helped my parents, who thanks to their connections found me a place secretary with knowledge of accounting in a large trading firm. The salary was not bad, but, of course, with such funds about traveling was out of the question. I met visitors with a bright smile, charm, and always looked impeccable. By then, having failed to find love, I decided to seek riches. I was looking for a man who could provide me with everything I dreamed of, so I wouldn't have to wake up early every morning to catch public transportation and work from 9 to 5 for a ridiculous salary. As the saying goes, seek and you shall find. That's when I met Thomas, or rather, Mr. Thomas Carter, a friend of my boss. He owned a thriving construction firm. He was 30 years older than me, married and had a grown daughter. He noticed me, but I noticed him even earlier. Despite his age, there was something about him. He was smart and very wealthy, just what I needed. I cautiously made inquiries about him and learned that he had always dreamed of having a son, so I decided to go on the offensive, using all sorts of tricks. We began to communicate, and he took a long look at me, apparently testing to see if I could fulfill his needs. But I gathered all my determination and passed the test brilliantly, so to speak. Soon, I became his mistress. He insisted that I quit my job, put me in a luxury apartment, gave me a car, and took me on vacations abroad. He even had his own house in Florida. Gradually, I became an integral part of his life. Of course, I pleased him in every way possible because such a source of wealth was not easy to get. His wife, Margaret, knew about me and, apparently, at first thought I was just a fling. But alas, the affair did not end, and Margaret began to lose her temper, making her husband's life a living hell. After 2 years of an illicit relationship, I did marry him. My mother was happy, but my father always disliked Thomas, believing I was worthy of someone younger and better. 2 years later, we had a son, Matthew, named after Thomas's father. We lived comfortably without needing anything. But time passed, and my husband worked hard, often leaving no time for me. My son grew up and no longer demanded constant attention as he used to. I thought about my life and realized that I didn't have enough work to do. My mind needed something to focus on, and I found a way out by learning French. I started studying with a teacher in a small group. I enjoyed the classes and felt like I was challenging myself again. It felt like I had finally woken up from a long sleep and discovered a new passion and purpose. My new acquaintances were corresponding with French people to practice their language. They were all single girls who dreamed of marrying foreigners. They recommended an international dating site to me. With great difficulty, I wrote my first letter consisting only of polite phrases and sent it to a few people who seemed interesting to me. I didn't expect much from it, but it gave me a sense of excitement and adventure that was sorely lacking in my life. One of them was Daniel, a handsome, brown-eyed artist and photographer who was preparing to head to my city soon. We exchanged messages, and I realized that beneath the polite words was a mutual attraction. Bored and longing for the attention my husband could no longer provide, I decided to have an affair. Yes, I had already decided to cheat. I was a modern young woman longing for true love, and my husband was already old and couldn't fulfill all my needs. Daniel and I had a passionate affair. It lasted only 2 weeks. But unfortunately, he soon had to return home, and I was alone again. But I was not discouraged and started looking for a new man to have fun with. However, I had to be careful if my husband found out. I would be in big trouble, and I certainly did not want to lose his money. I started frequenting elite bars and salons, places where wealthy men gathered. I liked meeting new people and getting adrenaline from the possibility of being caught. There was something intoxicating about playing with fire, knowing the risks but diving in anyway. I'd met a few men, but none of them had hooked me the way Daniel had. Still, I didn't want to give up. I was used to the excitement, the secrecy, the feeling of being wanted. It helped me feel alive in a way that my marriage never allowed. Eventually, I met Peter, a businessman who was in town for a few months. He was charming, confident, and seemed genuinely interested in me. We started dating, and it was exciting. Peter was different from Thomas. He was closer to my age, energetic, and had a carefree spirit that fascinated me. He made me laugh, and with him I felt I could forget all my worries. We would spend afternoons together exploring the city, enjoying long lunches, and even visiting art galleries. I felt like I had finally found the connection I had longed for. But as the weeks went by, I couldn't shake the guilt. I knew what I was doing was wrong. I had a husband and a son, and while Thomas wasn't perfect, he had given me everything I had ever wanted. I began to question my actions, wondering if the excitement was worth the risk. I had built a life of comfort and security, and I didn't want to lose all of that for a fling. Still, the temptation to be with Peter was hard to resist. Eventually, Peter had to leave town, and our affair came to an end. I was heartbroken, but I knew it was for the best. I couldn't continue living a double life, constantly looking over my shoulder and fearing the consequences. I decided to focus on my family and try to find fulfillment in what I already had. I started learning French, spending time with Matthew, and even tried to build a relationship with Thomas. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I was determined to do my best. My life had been a whirlwind of excitement and danger, but now it was time for stability, for peace. Despite my best efforts, some part of me still longed for something more. I couldn't help but think about the men I'd met, the adventures I'd had. It was a constant battle between wanting to keep my marriage stable and craving something new. I knew I had to make a choice, either fully commit to the life I had built or risk everything for the unknown. For the moment, I chose family, but deep down I knew that the desire for more would always be there, lurking beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to surface.